Hi friends, welcome to or welcome back to the channel Jane Reads. My name is Jeanette and today I am doing a summary of my reading in March. This will include a mention of all the books that I read in the month of March, what my rating was, if I have a quote to share from them or a couple quotes possibly. I'm going to go through my stats, like how much did I read, what genres did they fall in, all that kind of quick stuff, and then I will let you know what books I've brought in and what books I'm unhauling out of my reads. So that's going to be the overview. Now, I'm not going to talk much about the particular books. I will give a very brief summary because I have vlogged every single week in March, and I will link the weekly vlogs below along with which book is in which vlog. So if you want to see my final thoughts or even my thoughts going as I was reading the book, you can go back and watch that vlog. Those vlogs do have timestamps, so if you just want to find the part with the final thoughts on a particular book, you can easily find that as well. Okay, so let's just dive right in. How many books did I read in the month of March? I had 11 books on my TBR when I played my TBR game, and I'm very happy to say I completed my TBR. It was iffy because I did not complete the last book until the 31st. I was doing reading sprints the night of the 31st, and it was during those sprints that I finally finished that final book on my TBR, which gave me a total number read of 12 books. Because the very first book that I read in the month was not part of my monthly TBR because it carried over from February. But it wasn't on February's TBR either. But yeah, so I read 12 books. That was a total of 3,906 pages. The average works out to 326 pages. My top genre was romantic suspense. I only reread one book. Like, wow, because I love to reread. And I gave 2 books 5 stars, 7 books 4 stars, 2 books 3 stars, and 1 book 2 stars. I did not DNF any book. Now, with the genre, series. So I started 2 series, but I also completed 2 series. So really my series number didn't change at all because I started 2 and I completed 2. I did read 1 sequel and I read 6 standalones. Okay. So I read 2 contemporary romance, 1 dual timeline, 3 historical fiction, 4 romantic suspense, 1 women's fiction, and 1 young adult. Now, what were those books? I'm going to go in the order that I read them because that's the way my notes are if I want to share a quote or anything. So the very first book was Above the Fold by Rachel Scott McDaniel. This is her debut book. This is the one I read for my debut prompt on my Christian fiction bingo. And it is historical fiction set in 1922 Pittsburgh. It is a second chance romance. We are following Alyssa, who works at the newspaper that her father owns, but she really wants to be a journalist, but she's kind of being assigned just the office task. Then we have Cole, who is a journalist, who they had a relationship at one point. He left, went to New York City. Something happened in New York City. We don't really know what at the beginning. He is back and he wants to win Alyssa's affections again. And her father hires him for the paper, and so then they end up competing for the same position. And there is kind of a murder that they're investigating, that they're writing up for, and so they have to both write articles, and whichever has the best article will be the one that gets printed. I really enjoyed these 2 characters, and yeah, I really enjoyed it. I gave it 4 stars. The next book I read was The Bitter End Birding Society by Amanda Cox. This is set in Tennessee. It is a dual timeline story, 1958 and 2025. And we are following Anna, who is a teacher, and something has happened during the school year, and now she's out on summer break. She comes to Bitter End, Tennessee to spend some time with her Aunt Cora, who she's just met, who she's just even knew existed, to get to know her a bit and also kind of deal with the challenges of the school year and what is going to be next for her. She arrives in Tennessee and it's not quite exactly what she expected. And so then we are following her through that journey. So that's the present day timeline. In the historical timeline, we meet Violet, who is Cora's sister, and we get to know kind of her story, falling in love and going against family wishes and what happens going forward. I really liked both women and following them. Like, I just really connected with this story. And there is a birding society, like a bird watcher group, that really plays a very pivotal role in the story. And I did not expect to enjoy the bird watching moments as much as I did. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one. I'm not going to tell you what the final rating of this was because it is a 5-star prediction. However, if you were paying attention to my stats and as I go through these books, you might be able to figure out what I gave this one to. But you'll have to do some digging for that if you're really interested. But yeah, I highly recommend this one. And a quote to share. See, I already messed up. A quote I want to share from this, or it's actually two of them, is, "Was it really heroism when you acted on sheer instinct? Just because something is lost doesn't change its worth." The next book is For Such a Time by Kate Breslin. This is historical fiction, World War II. I was like, is it 1 or 2? World War II. And it is set in Czechoslovakia. I think it's the first book I read with that setting, not the first book with kind of this topic. We are following Stella, who has changed her name from Hadassah and was kind of rescued from the firing squad by a Nazi commander, Eric, who believed there was an error on her paperwork. And so he takes her in to be his secretary. She starts working for him, but she has Jewish connections and she is trying to save the Jews from being sent to Auschwitz. And can she do it without getting caught? And what happens when somebody realizes what she has been doing? And does Eric get roped into this as well? And I was so invested in the story. I wasn't a big fan of the romance, but the character story of Stella, Hadassah, and kind of the Jews and what they were going through and the way it was written and described, it was so easy to picture. I was fully invested in this book. I did give it 4 stars in the end because, as I said, I didn't really like the romance. It just didn't really feel realistic based on what was going on and the situations they were in. Then we completed the series with Beyond the Clouds by Elizabeth Camden. I had an arc of this book through NetGalley, so thank you. But I did read this after it was released. It came out in January, so I was behind the times. This is a historical set in World War I. And we are following Delia and Finn. They were really good friends growing up, became into a relationship, had plans to open a kite store in the future, but something happens, breaks up their relationship. They go their separate ways for 10 years. And now Finn is back and wants Delia's forgiveness. And can they move forward? It is World War I time. Finn has been a pilot. He is now on the home front because of something that's happened. And Delia is a legal secretary who has fallen for her boss and who is an older man, and she's trying to convince him that age doesn't matter. And Delia also does not believe in the war and is trying to fight against those, kind of trying to prove the war is pointless, basically, I guess is the way to say it. And Finn and Delia end up having to work together because of situations. And so we see them reconnect. There is also flashbacks for them back when they were younger and together. And so I really like to get to know the background of their relationship. And there was a particular character I did not like in this story. And thankfully, finally, Delia realizes it. And then we see them both go off to Berlin, and with the war going on and the situation they get into and the circumstances that they get into individually, and we definitely see Delia grow from who she is at the beginning of the book to the end. I really liked the growth and the change in her, and I loved this book. This was a 5-star read for me. And so I have 2 quotes to share. One is, if you are genuinely repentant and ask Christ Jesus for forgiveness, you are forgiven. You don't need to perform acts of heroism to earn that forgiveness. He gives it freely. And the second one is, courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was moving forward despite the fear. So I highly recommend giving this one a try. And you don't have to read the series, but I do encourage you to read the series because you do meet Delia in book 1, but she's very much of a background character. And then you do see the characters from book 2 especially are mentioned in book 3 and kind of Delia interacts with them at times. Book 1 is also mentioned as well, but really book 2. So I do recommend reading this series in order. Okay, and then the next book is Canyon of Deceit by DiAnn Mills. This is a romantic suspense, and we are following Therese, who is a wilderness survival expert, and Blaine, who is a Texas Ranger. Therese has been approached by a professor whose daughter has been kidnapped, and he believes that Therese can rescue the daughter. He says we cannot pull in any law enforcement. She asks if she can reach out to a friend who just happens to be law enforcement, but it's just him. So she reaches out to Blaine, and the two of them go out into this wilderness canyon to try to figure out. I listened to this and then read it as well. Like I tandem read this one. But there was times I was very confused on what was going on. How did they figure out that that person had the daughter? I don't really know. Then there is mentions the professor guy is from Russia. And so Russia gets pulled in, that maybe somebody from back home is trying to get some spy secrets or something. And there's just the Russian spy thing really was like, I don't know. And I never really did figure out fully kind of what the purpose of the villains were to kidnap the daughter. Like, why did they? What were they trying to get from America? And was the professor really telling the truth about everything, or was he leaving certain parts out? I did really enjoy getting the perspective of the kidnapped daughter. That was really interesting, and the strength of her, and kind of like, okay, this is what my dad has told me and this is what I'm going to do. And I really enjoyed that part of the story. So in the end, I gave this 3 stars because I also really enjoyed watching Teresa and Blaine kind of build up a relationship and are like kind of repair their friendship, build up their relationship, and we see one of them come to God and realize that they need Christ in their life. And we see that happen, and it felt very organic, not pressured. So yeah, but I gave it 3 stars in the end. Then my juvenile fiction, so my young, what did I call it? Young adult read. My chunker of a book that I read was Golden Filly, Volume 1 by Lauraine Snelling. This is books 1 to 5 in this bind up. And we meet Patricia, who is 15 years old at the beginning of the book. She wants to be a horse jockey. She's been training to be a horse jockey. Their dad runs a training, like a horse farm where he trains thoroughbreds. He's hired by their people to train them, but they've also raised up a couple of their own horses. But why do I have problems with her name? Trisha cannot officially race until she's 16. She can't enter any competitions until she's 16. So she is building up to, like, counting down for her 16th birthday when she can enter her first official competition. And meanwhile, she's also trying to deal with school and her father's health. Her father is sick. In the very, very beginning, we find out that he's been dealing with a cough for a while. Always said it was a smoker's cough, realizes it could be more, probably is more. And so we're dealing with his diagnosis and how does Trisha kind of balance everything. And then her brother has to stay home from college to look after the farm while her dad's going through treatment and stuff. And then there are 2 others. Basically, I think it's like kind of the brother is definitely her best friend, and I think it's kind of the brother's best friend. So the 4 young people are known to have hung out for years. It's always like they're 4 kids kind of thing for the parents. And we're watching kind of the friendship develop and Trisha going through the journey of the competition. So we see her in book 1 as her very first competition. Then as we go through the different books, time has passed. Like, I think a year has passed since the beginning of the book by the end of the book. And we see her compete at a number of competitions. And the challenges, there are injuries that happen. There are race accidents that happen. There are car accidents that happen. Like, there's a lot packed into this. But through it all, her father is a strong, like, the family is a Christian family. The father is a very strong Christian. And Trisha, like, questions God. Why is this happening? But there is a verse, Isaiah 30:51. Why do I always question what that reference is? Those who wait on eagle's wings, he will grant the strength. Wow. Like, it totally slips my mind as soon as I want to quote it. What is that? So yeah, but that verse becomes kind of the family motto in a way, and really for Trisha. I was so invested. And by the end of the book, I was in tears. A really happy thing happens, but an also really sad thing happens. And I was in tears. I gave this book 4 stars. Okay. Then I read Tricking Christmas by Shanna Hatfield. This is book 12 in the Rodeo Romance series. However, just because it has Christmas in the title, it is not a Christmas themed book. It actually starts in the summer. So we are following Jolie, who is a trick rider for rodeos. So she performs shows. Then we have Truett, who is a roper and attends the rodeos with his cousin, who they compete together. And so Jolie has been trying to, she's trying to do this business, her trick riding. Her partner, something happens, her partner backs out, she's on her own. She can only compete, or she doesn't even compete. She can only perform on her own for so long. and when she has like rodeos, shows, commitments that she's trying to fulfill. And Jolie and Truett have a history of Truett dated Jolie's partner for a while, like business partner for a while. And Jolie doesn't have high, what's the word I'm looking for? Doesn't really like Truett, basically. Thinks Truett is a player. And so she keeps him at arm's length. Well, when everything goes down with Amy leaving her on her own, she's like, don't make me ask him. Don't make me ask him. And Truett comes and offers his help. And so the two end up working together to put on the shows and get to know each other a lot. But because of past, their hearts are very hardened to love. And everybody around them kind of thinks they'd be perfect together. But neither one will act. Neither one is willing to risk the heart. Then we go through the summer, we see them relationship build, and it's like, what is going to happen? Then we do get to Christmas. I would say, I think it was 80% by the time like Christmas rolls around. And then it's for like, 5 to 10% of the book, because then the ending is not like we're past Christmas, we're now in January, February. So Christmas is a very tiny portion of this book. This book was filled with so many funny moments. We've got an elderly matchmaker who has promised not to try to matchmake. However, they get involved or rope somebody else in to kind of do the matchmaking for them because they promised not to. But Truett and Jolie are very, very stubborn characters. So how does this book wrap up? And how do they actually get together? Do they get together? So yeah, I really enjoyed it. And I loved seeing characters from the previous books because they all end up together at the rodeo convention in Las Vegas. And so like a lot of them are mentioned. So that was fun to get a little caught up on what's happened since we last saw characters from earlier books in the series. So I do have a quote to share, and that is, all we can do is live our best life and trust God for the rest. Then the next book is Second Impressions by Pepper Basham. I gave this book 2 stars. I'm not going to talk about it a lot. It is a short little novella, mainly set in Bath, England, but both characters are from North Carolina who go over to Bath for different reasons. They meet in Bath. There is some funny moments in this story, but there were some moments that really bothered me. So if you want to know more about it, check out my vlog for that. And I do have a spoiler rant for why I gave it 2 stars in that vlog. Okay, then the next book is Obsession by Patricia Bradley. This is book 2 of the Natchez Trace Park Ranger series. Jamie told me how to say this and I've already forgotten. I was listening to this on audio as well, and every time it's mentioned because it's the town in Mississippi where the book is set. And I still it has not gone into my head. Maybe by the time I read book 4, it will be in my head how to pronounce this properly. So this is book 2. We are following Emma, who is a park ranger, but also a historian. And so she has been given permission to kind of look into with ground penetrating radar, look into this gravesite and kind of mark the different graves and stuff. And number of years ago, her twin brother went missing and was accused of something, and she's been struggling to deal with that. What happened to Ryan? and he didn't do what he's being accused. She's positive he did not do what he's being accused of, but why did he disappear? What happened? She is locking up for the park one day, and somebody is over there dealing with a backhoe, and she's like, what's going on? Then she starts getting shot at. And so then the authorities get involved, and she ends up having to work with her ex-fiance, Sam. And Sam is now back in town. Sam was Ryan's best friend. And so I think their relationship was strained because of everything that went down with Ryan a number of years ago. And Emma pulled away and Sam left town. And now he's back, and they must work together. And Emma has a stalker after her, and we do get POV from that stalker and trying to figure out who that stalker is, and can they figure out why this person has been digging in this no dig place. What were they trying to hide, or what are they trying to cover up? So yeah, I was fully invested in this story, wanting to know what was going on. And I really liked the relationship as well, to see what was going to happen. I am not a huge Second Chance fan, but I did like these characters, and it felt very believable of what broke them up in the first place. And so them getting back together was like, okay, I'm okay with this. So yeah, I gave it 4 stars, and I will be continuing the series. So then I continued with the romantic suspense and read Wyoming Wilderness Survival by Jill Elizabeth Nelson. And when this one opens, we meet Tracy, who is a prisoner who is being transferred from one prison to another prison, and the van that she's traveling in gets hijacked. And it appears that somebody is after her. And it appears that she has been framed in the first place, and that is why she is in jail. She goes on the run in the middle of the wilderness with these guys trying to shoot her. And she meets Callum, who has kind of created his own refuge at this cabin with his young son, due to something that's happened in his past. It is slowly revealed why he's kind of shut himself off to the world and gone here. And so then these two end up work together to try to run from these criminals that are after them. And what is going on? This was like high energy, high suspense. Like they just could not get a break from these guys that were after them. And what is going to happen? Because not only do they have these villain people after them, they're in the wilderness with bears. And there is one particular bear, just like what's on the cover, that they keep stumbling across and is a huge threat to them. So they have a threat from nature. They have a threat from people. Like, I was so invested. I did not want to be in the wilderness for sure with them. So yeah, this was a 4-star read, and the relationship buildup between these two strangers felt very realistic, and the relationship was not rushed at all. And I really enjoyed that at the end they took the time to really get to know each other outside of a high pressure, intense situation. So I gave it 4 stars. Then I continued in the wilderness and read Danger in the Wilderness by Darlene L. Turner. This is book 1 of the National Park Protectors series, and it is set in Yukon, Canada. Darlene is a Canadian author from Ontario. And we meet Decker Holt, who is a park ranger up there. And he has gone on a father-son camping trip, and his father gets kidnapped. And there is a serial killer in the area, and they have been profiling this serial killer to try to figure it out. And Blair is the profiler who's working with a team. And when she finds out that Decker's father has been kidnapped, she knows Decker. And she is like, okay, I've got to figure this out now. Like, she's been really trying to figure it out, but now it's like kind of the pressure is on. And her and Decker start going and seeking together to try to figure it all out. And there were little clues about who it might be, but there were so many options, and it was like, what's going on? And it is a serial killer. There are a couple other people that get kidnapped in the meantime of the story. A couple do not survive because it's kind of been his pattern of the serial killer's pattern is kidnap them, and then the authorities find the body 72 hours later. But then once Decker's father has been taken, that pattern seems to change a little bit. And what is the connection? Why is the serial killer taking these people? Can they figure out the connection? And can they get to Frank, Decker's father, in time? Wow, there is so much that happens in this book. And I was there for the ride to try to figure it out. I gave this book 4 stars. And then the very last book I read was Change of Heart by Courtney Walsh. This is a women's fiction. This is book 2 of the Paper Hearts series. So this is a series I completed. And it is set in Colorado. We meet Evelyn Bryant, who is the wife of Christopher, who is a state senator, state governor, something. I don't know all the American terms. I don't remember exactly. He worked for the town and then moved on to work for the state. And he's very involved in politics, let's put it that way. Something happens and something is revealed, and Evelyn's whole life is in a tailspin. Like, what is going on? Enter Trevor Whitney, who they went to high school together. They've had a history. He was Christopher's best friend back in school, and they've really grown apart in the last number of years, basically since Chris and Evelyn have been married. And as we're going through and trying to figure out what's going on, how is Evelyn going to deal with this whole twist in her life? Her life is being thrown upside down. Then we have the Valentine volunteers who we met in book 1, Evelyn is a part of that group, and they also try to help and kind of show Evelyn true friendship. And Evelyn discovers who she is and rediscovers her dreams that she's kind of lost because Chris is not a good man. Let's put it that way. And I was really invested in the story for Evelyn. I wasn't a big fan of the romance storyline and the fact that certain people knew things were going on for a number of years and never told Evelyn. Like, what kind of friend is that? And I was really annoyed about that. So I gave this book 3 stars, and I'm happy to be done. Basically, it was kind of like I just wasn't in love with it. So yeah, those are all the books I read in the month of March. And the only book that I brought in, I again have not spent any money yet. Yay! My book buying budget is doing really well so far this year. So the only book I acquired was Lake Shore Wandering by Jennifer Rodwell. This is book 1 of a series. I cannot think of what the series name is. It is book 1, and it was on a free Kindle sale, and it sounds really intriguing. I've read this author before and really enjoyed the books I've read, so it was like, okay. And this book happens to be on my April TBR because I had to add a couple of my most recent purchases. So that is the only book that I brought in the month of March. And the only book I am unhauling for the month is Canyon of Deceit by DiAnn Mills. As I said, this was a 3-star read for me. I don't keep 3 stars on my shelf because I will not reread them. And I'm pretty sure somebody else will enjoy this more than I did. So I will pass it on and let somebody else give it a try. So my favorite book for the month was Beyond the Clouds by Elizabeth Camden. For sure, that was my favorite of the month. I just was so invested in these characters and really enjoyed, and I learned things about history in this book that I had no idea. So I always enjoyed that. Please tell me what your favorite book for the month of March was. I would love to chat in the comments below. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video today, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.